Two major championships have changed hands, both on weekly television shows. We also have news of a return and a pretty significant injury. Welcome back to the Wrestling is Bullshit podcast. Very excited to get into this with y'all. It's been a weirdly significant week. We haven't really had a big show. We don't have a big show coming up on the watch list this week, but we have had a lot of progression and a lot of interesting things unfold in and outside of the ring. So we start with Monday Night Raw 6 days ago, which is where we were able to see a heel turn and a major title change, one of the two major title changes. If you ask me which one was more interesting, obviously I'm going to say it was the title change, because in the main event, undisputed WWE champion Sami Zayn lost his belt to the returning CM Punk in Chicago, Illinois. CM Punk is the new undisputed WWE champion, and he is seemingly going over to SmackDown to be in that main event scene with the major belt. And that's very interesting. I think that's a good shakeup. He's been on Raw for a while at this point, and I think the big surprise of CM Punk winning the title in Chicago was humongous. I think a lot of people are underestimating how big of a moment that was. You really got to appreciate the big moments when they come, especially on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. They like to save those big moments for premium live events like SummerSlam, which is coming up soon. So to get a big CM Punk title win in Chicago on Raw was very fun. And then just before the main event, we actually saw Maxine Dupree turn heel and join the Vision. So we got some growth happening within the Vision. The Vision also regained the World Tag Team titles. Austin Theory and Braun Breaker were able to successfully regain those tag team titles after Paul Heyman said, bring the titles back or don't come back at all. I think that's very simple storytelling with the Vision. It's very cool to see Maxine Dupree turn heel. You can have Otis and Akira Tozawa now challenge for the World Tag Team titles against the Vision. There's a natural story there. I just want to applaud that. I think that's very simple, and I'm invested in that story, the Vision versus Tozawa and Otis. So, yeah, man. Not only did we see the big title change, but we also did, yes, see the World Tag titles change hands on Raw as well. So very busy Raw. And then AEW Dynamite said, hold my beer, as we were able to see two new champions on AEW Dynamite Beach Break as well. Very special episode of AEW Dynamite. Not just because they called it Beach Break, but because they did some crazy stuff, right? So the most crazy thing, of course, was Kenny Omega in the main event defeating MJF for the AEW World Championship. That was incredible. That was fantastic. Definitely sparks a lot of intrigue going into All In. We now have Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay for the AEW World title as the official main event of All In, with Kenny Omega winning the belt here on Dynamite in the main event. Good stuff here, man. Eager to see what they do with MJF here. Does he win the title back at Redemption? Does he go into a triple threat in the main event against Ospreay and Omega? Does he face somebody like Jon Moxley, which I think would be fantastic? What's going to happen there? We'll have to wait and see. But as of right now, as it stands, we will be seeing the All-In main event be Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay for the AEW World title. And then we also saw Kyle Fletcher defeat Konosuke Takeshita to become the new AEW International Champion, which is very interesting. Very intriguing title change there. I think that's a good spot for Kyle Fletcher going into All In, holding that belt. Maybe he'll face Takeshita again. Maybe it'll be a triple threat involving Okada. I don't know. I know AEW doesn't like to do too many triple threats, but you have two clear good opportunities to do a triple threat at All In, whether it's for the international title or the world title. We'll see what happens, though, man. So another interesting thing that happened on Dynamite Beach Break was Willow Nightingale's return. She won a Casino Gauntlet match for the number one contendership to the AEW Women's World title. So Willow Nightingale will be challenging Tekla for the AEW Women's World title at AEW Redemption. That pay-per-view looks like it's going to be fantastic. We'll probably see MJF versus Kenny Omega once again, if I had to guess. But yeah, time will tell. Definitely a very interesting episode of Raw and a very interesting episode of Dynamite. Outside of the ring, man. Well, I guess before we get outside of the ring, we do have one thing that happened on SmackDown that is of note, and that was Baron Corbin returning to WWE, attacking United States champion Trick Williams. Baron Corbin's back on that SmackDown roster. He will be a solid addition to the mid card. Of course, if you were to ask me if I would rather have Baron Corbin on the SmackDown mid card or Aleister Black on the SmackDown mid card, I would say Aleister Black. So there you go with that. Um, I think Baron Corbin's a guy that can play the system well. Like he plays in the system well. You know, he's always good to have around. I think WWE's pretty desperate, and they want to have a guy like Baron Corbin around to build new stars around. Really. Outside of the ring here, before we get into the watch list, we also got the development that Rhea Ripley is injured. She revealed it herself on Power Slap. Power Slap is another Dana White uh, promotion. It's basically a sport where people slap each other. As much as I enjoy UFC, as much as I enjoy Zuffa boxing, as well as all boxing, Power Slap has always been too silly to be. Nonetheless, this is a little silly sport of Dana White's that is dying here. So he went ahead and had Rhea Ripley reveal that she's injured and go into great detail with Nina Drama on this Power Slap card to get some wrestling fans to get their eyes on Power Slap. So that's really what this is. It's unfortunate that Ripley is injured. This did not convince me to watch Power Slap. Sorry, TKO. But we've all suspected that Rhea Ripley has been injured, right? Liv Morgan hasn't really been defending her title much on Raw. She is wrestling, and I thought it was interesting that she was a part of the Queen of the Ring tournament. Hopefully she gets to defending that belt soon. But one thing that was also very surprising is the fact that Rhea Ripley hasn't been defending her belt at all. I think WWE is in a position to have a really good era of women's wrestling, and they're simply not doing it. But, I've been saying that. I will say Rhea Ripley revealing that she's injured shows us that there's more to the story, right? I'm sure they want to use Rhea Ripley more, but she's seemingly injured, and it's unfortunate, and I wish her a speedy recovery. I hope she's able to get back in that ring and defend that title soon, because we got Liv Morgan on Raw as the main champion, and then Rhea Ripley on SmackDown. There should be no issues, right? There are plenty of women on the main roster, both Raw and SmackDown, that can put together some good programs for that belt. Why have that belt if you're not going to feature it? And like I said, Liv Morgan's been doing something unique over on Raw, so I'm going to go pretty light on that. But yeah, it's been very interesting that Rhea Ripley hasn't been around. And there you go. She's been injured. All right. Not too much crazy stuff this week. I guess, it's funny when you have the big title changes on the weekly TV shows, it feels like, they get swept under the rug quicker. I just tend to remember how a pay-per-view or a premium live event leaves me feeling more than the weekly TV shows do. Call me systematic, call me formulaic, whatever. This sport doesn't have an off season, so you got to do what you got to do. But nonetheless, man, very interesting stuff here. CM Punk over at SmackDown, he's their main champion now. He's the undisputed WWE champion. Kenny Omega, AEW World Champion. Bunch of other title changes on both shows, AEW Dynamite and Raw. We're just going head to head this week, which is cool. Competition breeds excellence, and I think if one of these guys loses steam, they always have an incentive to jump back on the horse and generate the steam as soon as they can, because they have an opponent. They have somebody that's going after the throne, right? So yeah, let's get into this watch list here, guys. This is all WWE. We got 3 shows here on Monday Night Raw. We actually have a Intercontinental Championship #1 contender gauntlet match. Ethan Page, Rusev, Dragon Lee, Joe Hendry, Chad Gable, Dominic Mysterio, and Javon Evans will be in that match. And the winner will be the #1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship and will probably face Penta at SummerSlam, if I had to guess. Maybe at Saturday night's main event. Because there isn't much marketed for that show. Before we get there, let's get to NXT on Tuesday. 2 title matches here. We got the Vanity Project versus Dorian Van Dyke and Shawn Legacy for the NXT Tag Team Championship. And then we have Zarya defending the Women's North American Championship against Layla Diggs. 2 title matches there on NXT. And then Saturday, we got WWE Saturday night's main event. We got Paige and Brie Bella defending the Women's Tag Team Championship against Fatal Influence. And that's all we got for Saturday night's main event. I hope that's not all we got because that would be very disappointing. I think this is a perfect opportunity to get people excited for SummerSlam. SummerSlam is what, 4 weeks out, if I'm not mistaken? Maybe less. 4 weeks, I think, is it. Anywho, this Saturday night's main event is a perfect time to have big matches, get people excited for SummerSlam. If all you're bringing to the table is a women's tag team championship match and some other filler matches, then I'm sorry. I don't think that's a great move. That's lazy. Anywho, we'll see what happens, man. All right. Before we get you out of here, let's go over the top 20 champions of wrestling. You know what? I'm going to make you go to my Instagram for the top 20 champions of wrestling. I've been thinking about how I want to present that because it is so crazy and it changes every week. So I think I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to have to figure out a system. I don't want to do it every episode anymore. I think it's a better idea to let it exist as a week to week process on Instagram, but on YouTube here, we'll take a visit once or twice a month. I'll have to figure out what that looks like. I'm being straight up. I'm being on the spot here, guys. Sorry if you enjoy that little last bit of the show. I'm really thinking we should modify it and change a couple of things. So forgive me and thank you for letting me be on my feet there. All right, guys. Good news is I'm getting you out of here in less than 12 minutes. Hasn't been, I always say it hasn't been too crazy of a week, but I can't say that this week because it has been a crazy ass week. I mean, Baron Corbin returning to WWE, several titles changing hands, like Rhea Ripley revealing she's injured, It's been a crazy week. I'll talk to you guys next week, and we'll talk about Saturday night's main event. We'll talk about AEW Redemption as it further develops. We'll talk about what wrestling you should be watching. All right, fellas. Be good. Peace out.